Welcome to The Explainer. We're going to break down what actually happens when someone is accused of a serious crime in India. We'll walk you through the entire court process, step by step, under the country's brand new legal framework.
So if you're facing a serious charge, you're not just thrown into some chaotic system. There's a very specific roadmap that the courts have to follow. So let's trace that map together, from the very first accusation all the way to the final verdict.
All right, first up, we need to decode India's warrant trial. Before we get into any of the nitty-gritty steps, we have to understand the name of the game. You see, for serious offenses, the entire procedure is known as a warrant trial.
Yeah, so think of it like this. If the potential punishment is anything more than 2 years in prison, all the way up to life imprisonment or even the death penalty, the law demands this much more rigorous, much more detailed process. And every single one of these trials starts down one of two very different paths.
Now, on one hand, you've got the most common route, the one we all kind of picture, which kicks off after a formal police investigation. But there's also this other, less traveled path where any private citizen can go directly to a court official, called a magistrate, and file a complaint to get a case started themselves.
So let's follow the evidence and take a look at the police report path. We'll start with the way most cases get going, after the police have done their investigation and filed their official report.
Think of these as the first three big fairness hurdles in the process. First, the court has to level the playing field by handing over copies of all the case documents to the accused and their lawyer. Second, it gives the accused a chance to stand up and argue, hey, wait a minute, this case has no merit, and ask for it to be thrown out right then and there. And only if the case clears both of those hurdles does the court officially frame the charges.
And right here, this is a massive change in the new laws. It's designed to tackle one of the biggest problems in the Indian legal system, just endless delays. So now, there's a shot clock. The defense gets 60 days to challenge the case, and the court gets 60 days to formally press charges. The whole point is to force the system to keep moving forward.
So, with the charges officially on the table, the court turns to the accused and asks a really direct question that's going to determine everything that happens next.
This is a huge fork in the road. Pleading guilty can, and often does, end the proceedings right then and there. But a plea of not guilty, well, that's the green light for a full-blown trial, where both sides are going to battle it out with evidence and witnesses.
Okay, so that brings us to the core of the trial, presenting evidence and arguments. This is the part where each side really gets to make its case.
So, the prosecution steps up to the plate first. Their job is to build a mountain of evidence and witness testimony to prove their case. But, and this is so important, every single piece of that evidence and every single witness they call can be challenged by the defense team in what's called cross-examination.
And once the prosecution rests its case, you can almost feel the scales of justice start to tip. Now it's the defense's turn to fight back.
The defense finally gets its chance to present its own narrative. Now, this can be done through a written statement, but more powerfully, it's done by calling their own witnesses to the stand. The court will even help force those witnesses to show up, as long as it isn't just a tactic to waste time.
Now let's just rewind for a second. Remember that other, less common starting point? The one where a private citizen, not the police, gets the whole case started? Let's talk about the private complaint path.
Okay, so here is the key difference. In this scenario, the court hears all of the prosecution's evidence up front, before any official charges are even filed. And this acts as a really powerful filter. You see, if that initial evidence is weak, the magistrate can just dismiss the case right away, which saves the accused from having to go through the stress and cost of a full trial.
But once that initial evidence hearing is done, and if the charges are framed, the two paths actually merge. From this point forward, the trial proceeds in exactly the same way we've been talking about, with the defense presenting its evidence, followed by the final arguments from both sides.
And that brings us to the final act: verdict, sentence, and safeguards. After all the evidence is in, all the arguments have been made, we finally reach the trial's conclusion.
The magistrate has to weigh everything and deliver the final judgment. And there are really only two possibilities: acquittal, which means not guilty, and the accused walks free right then and there. Or conviction, which means guilty, and the whole process moves on to deciding the punishment.
But hang on, this is a really critical question, right? What if the whole thing was just a baseless accusation from the get-go? Does the justice system have a way to protect people from being dragged through a trial on completely fabricated charges? Well, the new law has a specific answer for this.
Yes, here's that safeguard in action. If someone is cleared of all charges, and the court looks at the case and says, you know what, there was no reasonable basis for this accusation, the accuser can actually be ordered to pay compensation to the person they accused. It's a really powerful tool to stop people from misusing the justice system.
And this law definitely has teeth. If the person who made the false claim is ordered to pay that compensation, and they fail to do it, they can be sentenced to up to 30 days of simple imprisonment. It just goes to show how seriously the system takes this issue.
So when you look at the whole picture, India's new trial process is really a balancing act. On one side, you've got these strict new timelines that are all about trying to deliver faster justice. And on the other, you have these built-in safeguards to protect people from false accusations. The real test, of course, is going to be seeing if this new framework can actually deliver on both of those promises.